Peace. Welcome to Value Talks, the podcast where we dig into what really matters. I'm your host, Coach Pat. Every episode, we explore the values that shape who we are, how we live, and the choices we make. Let me give you a riddle. I'm carried by one person, but I was never meant to belong to them. Holding me too long can cost the whole team the race. Releasing me at the right moment can carry the mission farther than one person ever could. What am I? So we will explore what that is a little bit later on, but today we're talking about the value of passing it on. So let me kind of give some context of what happened this week that led me to a video of probably watch it once, probably every year or so, Dr. Miles Monroe. It's a teaching from Dr. Miles Monroe called Passing the Leadership Baton. It's not necessarily a teaching, but it's a video of an interview, very brief interview he did for a reporter that was asking him some questions about leadership. And his message centered on succession, on preparing people, transferring a vision, a body of knowledge, a set of values, and the weight of responsibility before your season ends. And Dr. Monroe taught that succession protects a purpose beyond the life or position of its original leader. And he described in it that transferring a leader's visions or character, standards, values, and responsibility to the next generation is always coming next. And that idea stayed with me. Why? Because a lot of people know how to start something. Some people know how to build something. Far few people, I would say, yes, know how to release it. And why does this matter? Well, when you think about a relay race can be lost by the fastest team on the track. And it's not because they lack speed, but because they mishandle the exchange. And that's where the baton, as you can see in the title, and that's actually the answer to the riddle, comes into play. The baton has to leave one hand and enter another hand inside a limited exchange zone. And there's some caveats here. If it's too early and the next runner may not be ready, if it's too late, the opportunity is gone. Or a weak transfer can waste years of strong work that was put in during practice and training. And this happens outside the context of a actual relay race event. It happens in families, businesses, churches, community organizations, friendships, creative projects, even inside our own personal development. So sometimes the version of you that got you here, where you are right now, has to pass the baton to the version of you being capable to go even farther. And growth requires exchange, right? So the immediate question that comes to mind for me is that when should I step back? Who can I trust? And what happens when I am no longer in control? And these questions are very real questions to sit with. But underneath them sits the ultimate question. Am I committed to the purpose, or am I attached to being the person in charge? And that question can sting. It can even cause people to, let's just say, not be here any longer. Because we can say we care about the mission while quietly needing the mission to revolve around us. Call it responsibility, high standards, protecting the vision. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's ego, other times we build our whole identity around being needed. So then the question came to me, what does it really mean to pass the baton? And what I came up with is that passing the baton means intentionally transferring what you carry to someone who can continue the work. And that may include the knowledge, authority, the access, relationships, lessons, values, mistakes, context, and room to make the decisions. Notice that last one. You have not fully passed the baton when you give somebody else responsibility, but you continue controlling every move. That person becomes a substitute pair of hands. They do not become a successor. A real transfer includes trust, preparation, and the possibility that the next person may run differently than you ever did. See, everything living participates in continuity. A tree produces fruits that carry the seeds. A teacher passes knowledge to a student that will apply it in a different sector or industry. A parent transfers language, habits, wounds, wisdoms, and values that will be carried on to another generation. An artist influences other types of artistry, and a community gives its memory to the next community that will grow forward. Life keeps moving through transmission. We receive, we develop, we contribute, we release. The baton was in motion before it reached us, and eventually it has to move again. We have this very, very flirtatious imagination about possession, and we ultimately know that possession is temporary, but stewardship is the assignment. I think there's a undercurrent that we need to face here that has been in the abyss, like the Bermuda Triangle, and that's the fear of becoming irrelevant. So let's keep it real. Passing the baton can feel like disappearing. You may wonder, will they still need me? Will people remember what I contributed? What happens when the next generation gets the applause? What happens when they improve what I created? And that fear can make people sabotage their own legacy. They refuse to teach what they know. They withhold access, keep younger people dependent, or criticize every new approach. They wait for the perfect successor who does not exist. Then they use the absence of the successor as proof that they must remain in control. And this becomes the cycle. And that leader helped to create that cycle. So let's analyze something here, and I always like to use the spectrum as the visual, right? So keep like a ruler or a number line in mind, right? So on one side of this spectrum is the underexpressed component, where there is a premature release, right? We have an abandonment disguised as delegation. And the embodiment of this person is that they hand over responsibility without any preparation, no training, no context, no support, no clear expectations. Then when the next person struggles, they say, you see, they weren't ready. But readiness requires development, right? You cannot throw somebody into deep waters and call the panic a character flaw, right? There's a fallacy there when I was doing my research. It's called survivorship bias. And what happens with survivorship bias is we focus on the people who succeeded and overlook everyone who was harmed or excluded by the same process. A leader might say something like, nobody trained me, I figured it out. Maybe you did. But how many capable people were lost because nobody invested in them? Your survival does not prove the system was healthy. Let's reframe the ask of this aspect of the spectrum. Instead of saying, nobody trained me and I figured it out, the reframe here could be, what support would have helped me to grow with less unnecessary damage? Followed up by, how can I provide the support without removing healthy challenge? Now, if we transition to the other side of the spectrum where it's overexpressed, is the refusal to release. On that end, we have control disguised as commitment. And this person believes nobody can meet their standards. They correct every decision. They remain involved in every conversation, and they ask someone else to lead, then punish them for leading differently. And that causes or creates confusion. Who actually has authority here? Who owns the outcome? Can the successor make mistakes without being publicly undermined? And the fallacy in that arena is the appeal to tradition. The appeal to tradition says, we have always done it this way, so this must remain the right way. History, yes, it can carry wisdom. History can also carry habits that have outlived their purpose at that moment in time. And we carry it into another generation. Now we just have an unnecessary weight on our back. The next runner may need a different stride because the terrain has definitely changed, because that's how time operates. So to reframe the ask here, you can ask things such as, what principles must remain? What method can evolve through this process? Those are different questions that can serve a very profound purpose. And as we bring the two ends of the spectrum together, we can have a balanced expression, which is intentional succession. The balanced expression combines the preparation and the release. You identify potential, you invest the time, you explain the purpose behind the process, you gradually increase responsibility, you allow real decisions, you give honest feedback, and you transfer authority clearly. Then you step back far enough for the new leader to run. It doesn't mean you fade to black or to back. You remain available without remaining in control. That is mature stewardship. Now, remember earlier when I said we can take into mind here that the baton is part of a relay race. And in a relay race, the outgoing runner begins moving before receiving the baton. This exchange zone is very important because they do not stand still and wait. They build momentum. The incoming runner also has a responsibility. They have to communicate, they have to time the exchange, and they have to release the baton cleanly. Both runners or both people participate, and that moment actually gives us three important stages. Stage one is to run with me. At first, the developing person watches closely. They observe your decisions, they hear how you think, they see how you respond when plans change, and this gives them the proper exposure. Then the second stage is to run while I watch. Now they begin carrying the responsibility. You remain nearby, you provide feedback, allows for some mistakes, and this is where development occurs. Then stage three is the run, and I will support you. This is where the authority becomes real. They own their decisions, they face the consequences, and they develop their own judgment. This is succession. You cannot remain in stage 2 forever. At some point, watching has to become trusting. So if we take a step back and we think about the different stages of life, when I think about early adulthood, passing the baton may involve sharing opportunities instead of treating every room like a competition. Put somebody's name forward, teach a skill, introduce two people to one another, share what helped you to get through the door. In that season of midlife, not crisis, but midlife, this often brings about greater influence. Now the question becomes, who are you developing? Who understands how you think? What knowledge currently lives only inside your head that needs to live in another head? And to my seasoned veterans, or my seasoned citizens, the temptation may be to protect your position, but this stage can offer something much more powerful, which is perspective, context, and wisdom without the need to dominate. You can become a bridge between generations. Remember that. You can help the next runner avoid the potholes without demanding that they follow your exact path or blueprint. See, one of the most common baton life experiences that we will encounter is when we either watch or we're involved as parents, passing the baton every day to those who come from us or that are around us. It may be beliefs, money habits, communication patterns, ideas about love, ideas about conflict, ideas about identity. The question is not whether you are passing something. The question is what you are passing. So I want you to take a moment. Think about something you carry. A role, a skill, a responsibility, a relationship, a body of knowledge, family tradition, business, a platform. Whatever it is, ask yourself, what do I know that somebody else will eventually need? How did I learn it? What do I think only I can do? Why do I believe that? What have I heard about the people coming behind me? And have I tested those assumptions? Where can I look for evidence of their potential? And am I waiting for somebody to become ready while refusing to give them the experiences that create readiness? As my father's birthday is coming up, I'm using a baton audit within my own personal life through a simple exercise. I'll share it with you. So get a piece of paper, get a pencil or crayon, whatever it is that you use. I want you to draw 4 columns. In column 1, write down what I carry. I want you to write down the knowledge, the relationships, the responsibilities, and the values currently in your hands. Column 2, who needs access? Name people who could benefit from learning what you know. Do not only choose people who resemble you. Look for character. Look for curiosity, consistency, capacity. Then we move on to column 3. What I need to teach. Write them down. Not stuff that you learn from a manual or a textbook. Your decision-making process, your history, your context, your mistakes, your standards, the reason behind the work that you do. And then in column 4, what do I need to release? Identify one responsibility the other person can begin owning. Not observing, owning. Give them a real decision with real consequences and appropriate support. That is how potential becomes capacity. And I want to share a word to the next runner. Listen to me. Passing the baton always requires someone willing to receive it. You will feel overlooked. You may feel ready. You may believe the current leader should move faster. Be careful. Wanting the baton and being prepared to carry it are two very different things. Study the race, my friend. Learn the history, build your character, ask questions, serve before the spotlight reaches you, and take responsibility for small things. Show that you can carry weight without needing constant recognition. And when that baton reaches your hand, honor what came before you. Then run your leg of the race. Don't spend your whole season and time proving that the previous runner was wrong. Your responsibility is to move it forward. To the rest of us, some of us are exhausted because we are carrying batons that should have been transferred years ago. And some of us feel powerless because the people ahead of us refuse to release their baton. And then there are others, outliers, that are waiting for permission when we could be preparing. And then to the stragglers who keep saying there's nobody to pass it to because we have not invested deeply enough in anybody, I need you to sit with some questions. Who are you preparing? What are you withholding? What are you afraid of that will happen when somebody else becomes capable? Who gave you your baton? Did you honor their investments? And what would it look like to release control without abandoning responsibility? With that being said, I'm going to land the plane right here. And as I think about it, Dr. Miles Monroe's teaching emphasized that leaders should prepare successors while they are still present to mentor them and witness them run. A purpose only gains continual energy and life force when its knowledge, values, and responsibilities reach another generation. Your values, they don't just disappear when someone else becomes capable. Their growth can become evidence that your leadership worked. And a strong leader can run. A wise leader can develop another runner. A secure leader can let go of the baton. And one of the phenomenal leaders or embodiment of leaders that I can think of is a legacy-minded leader that can watch the race continue without needing to remain at the center of it. So the final question for all of us as a community is, what are you carrying today that was always meant to travel beyond you? And who are you preparing to receive it? Because eventually every runner reaches the exchange zone. Run your leg of the race well. Make the transfer clean. And when the moment comes, pass the baton. Peace.